All right. Well, we've got a healthy number in the room thus far and more coming in. Welcome. My name is Joe Sommer. I'm the Executive Director of Episcopal Parish Network. Really pleased to have you with us today in this conversation about generative AI and its use in ministry. I hope that you're going to learn a lot out of this program, and it's the first in several conversations that we'll be having in this area over the next year. So we are pleased to be joined today by Peter and Mercedes, who are going to share their wisdom and experience. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute, but please know that after they're done introducing themselves to help frame this conversation, we'll be running a poll that will be taking place. And we would ask that you would please enter any questions or comments into the chat feature. So please enter any questions or comments today into the chat feature. And if you have a minute, please put your name and where you are dialing in from into the chat feature as well, so our folks can get to know you. All right. With that, Peter, I'm going to hand it off to you, and we will get the poll started as soon as you all tell me you're ready.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joe. It's great to be here. And yeah, great to share some of what we've been figuring out and finding with you all. I'm Peter Levenstrong. I'm the Associate Rector at St. Gregory of Nyssa Episcopal Church in San Francisco. You probably might have heard about us for our liturgical innovation, and I have been enjoying getting to explore some other ways of innovating ministry at this parish while I've been here for the past 4.5 years. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mercedes.
Hey, I am the Reverend Mercedes Clements. I am the rector of All Saints Episcopal Church in Russellville, Arkansas. And prior to following my call to ordain ministry, I worked in technology in a whole lot of different roles for about 20 years. And so it's kind of natural to me when I see something come out to wonder about how I can play with the technology or find out if there's a way that it can be faithfully used for ministry. So I think with that, we wanted to go ahead and open the poll because we're curious about your experience with AI and whether or how you're feeling about it to help kind of give us an idea of what's going on in your worlds. And I love seeing all the introductions. Thank you all for joining us. And we do probably have. We do probably need to give the shout out back to Father Lorenzo Labrija with the Tri Tank, who's joining us today, and also is making our podcast AI Church Toolkit possible as we explore this and try to share it with the world.
Yeah, side note about that, if you enjoyed today's conversation and want to keep on learning, Mercedes and I have been working on this podcast with support from Lorenzo, and we have 3 episodes out, and they'll continue coming out in the coming weeks. Sorry, Joe, were you sharing something?
Sorry about that, Peter. Didn't mean to step on you. I just wanted to let you know the poll is open now, and it looks like we're getting good participation. I think we should maybe give it 10 more seconds or so. And
Great.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. We're going to close in 5 seconds. All right, here we go.
Okay, so we have, looks like some mix of some experience and regular user, a few with little to no experience, and one person who builds their own bots. I want to hear about this.
All right, I'm going to take the poll down now. Thanks so much.
Well, hold on. Hold on. Don't take it down just yet.
We want to look at the second question too. So, yeah, primary concerns. We wanted to get to an understanding of what people are bringing with them, what questions they have, and so it sounds like plagiarism, copyright, worry about factual errors and hallucinations are the main ones. There's the quality of response, authenticity and human relationships, mix of whole things. We'll definitely talk about copyright and hallucinations for sure. Okay, thank you. I think that's what we needed from the poll.
Right, enjoyed the conversation.
All right, well, so we are going to definitely talk about all these things. We'll try to fit it all into an hour, but to start off, I wanted to share an example of sort of the frontier things that generative AI can do right now. And this is changing all the time, but just maybe a month ago, OpenAI came out with deep research for Plus users if you're subscribing to ChatGPT at the $20 a month level. And deep research is really exciting to me because it can go out and do a whole bunch of reading and write a report specifically tailored to your question, your situation. And we wanted to give you an example of that. But it does take some time. It'll usually take about 10 minutes of it going off and working before it comes back with the response. So we're going to begin with that, and then it can be working in the background while we're talking about other things. And for this example, I've used it in my own context, but I thought it'd be really fun to hear from you all. What if you could put in your chat? I forgot that we won't be seeing your faces, but put in your chat an example of something that you would want to like. If you could have someone go out, do a bunch of research, and write a report for you, what would it be about? Whether that's a potential new ministry opportunity in your neighborhood, an adult formation course, changing demographics of your neighborhood or city, perhaps a history of your city, your parish, yourself, something that would have enough substantive public information out there that someone could go and do the research and come back with a report. Put it in the chat right now. Think about it, and we'll try to choose one example and do a deep research exploration of it. So shield and branding, I'll have to hear more about that. Effective new approaches to Christian formation.
We can do that on the short side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do something that you would perhaps hire a consultant for, to go and do a whole research thing for your parish.
Brian Seller's got a good one here with
A study of successful parish agrarian, i.e. beekeeping or community gardening. All right. Yes. Brian, I know we've talked about this a bit. Do you have an example in mind that you would explore? Yeah, so feasibility study type research, it would be perfect. Just give an example of what you're looking for. Okay, so yeah, so Brian, here, while we're continuing to think about this, let me pull up what I have done with this. This will maybe help folks understand what we're looking for. So I'm going to share on my screen. This is a report from ChatGPT's deep research. And I had it write this whole study about the potential for St. Gregory's, my parish, to keep bees. And I asked it, what to do a feasibility study for this potential new ministry and look into grants and neighborhood aptitude, zoning laws, all of this. And it comes up with this is a 15-page report. And so it talks about opportunities for grants. It talks about neighborhood strategy for raising awareness and outreach, how to partner with our neighbors, do different community events, and city regulations and zoning. San Francisco apparently is a notably bee-friendly city, which was fun to find out. Care and maintenance plan. It can just do all of this, create it in 10 minutes while I'm working on something else. So I wanted to, yeah, and it has all these, the links to the sources here. So for folks who are worried about hallucinations, it'll take you right to the source. So here on this webpage, it says they're finding an unlikely refuge in San Francisco, in the big city for urban beekeepers. So that's where it got this source of information. Or let's see, I'm not, somewhere in here it's quoting that. So that's sort of an example of what we're talking about. I'm going to come back to the chat and see history of Christianity prior to the Council of Nicaea, marketing to people in affluent neighborhood that's not downtown, midst of strategic planning. Sorry, Mercedes.
Yeah, it's okay. There's a lot of good ideas in here, but I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have to launch one of them,
Yeah.
just to keep an eye
So
on time.
yeah,
And so I'm thinking we might open it up and see, get one of them started.
I'm having trouble choosing one.
Oh man,
Um,
here we go. The
just,
last one is pretty specific.
oh yeah.
Potential for
Okay,
mixed and yeah.
potential for mixed and low income housing on the west side of Cleveland, Ohio, with funding opportunities. Okay, that sounds like there's yeah, potential there. Rebecca Miller, can you also just tell me your parish and specific neighborhood and any extra context like that?
Do you want to go ahead and share the
I'm
screens?
I'm going to
Yeah,
do that,
yeah.
and let me make sure I can also still see the chat. I have to open up the chat window. Okay.
I'll watch and let you know
Are,
what she says.
are you all able to see my ChatGPT window right now?
Yep.
Okay. So right here, I turn on deep research and okay, so research for me the potential for mixed, and I'm just gonna copy paste from Becca. Um, and let's see, without further information, I can start that. It'll ask follow-up questions. St. Luke's, Cleveland, how to best use their property space. Okay, so now it asks these follow-up questions. This or and Rebecca, if you can pop some answers in the chat while I'm typing, that would be great.
St. Luke's, Cleveland. Uh, how to use their property space. The zip code is 44102.
4102. Timeline is, let's say,
Just
3 years.
yeah,
Um, New
probably new construction.
construction. Look at state and local grants. Examples would be super helpful. Okay, so I'm going to just do that. And now it's going to go off and research for me for about 10 minutes. It varies with each query. And you can see that it's responding here. And as soon as it gets started, I'll stop sharing and we can, yep, here we go. So it's starting the research. I'm going to stop my sharing and Mercedes will take us to the next thing while that is working.
All right. So I saw a lot of great ideas in there, and I'm going to try to give a couple of examples using ChatGPT to kind of cover some of these things, but also some of the recommendations. So you should see a blank ChatGPT window open right now, hopefully.
Yes, we can.
And what I've done here is this one is brand new. My ChatGPT knows me pretty well, and the reason why I want to do that is because we find it's really important to first set context. A lot of people go in and they don't get great answers because they aren't first setting the context like we just did for that deep research. But I am also not real big on the whole building the perfect prompt. I like to engage with my tool here. And so I use conversation in order to get it going. So one of the examples I'm going to throw up is just one I've worked with recently, but I think it can apply and you can see some processes and some potentials for a lot of the questions you're asking, which is we've been working through strategic planning in our church recently. And so, just to kind of give you an idea of how this has helped, I do have a strategic planning consultant that's actually a member of the parish. And that does address one of the questions that you asked, which is what about hallucinations? What about making it up? And what we find is that it's important that you're using it when you have a resource in order to be able to verify it. So I'm comfortable with strategic planning because I've done this before and I have a consultant that is helping to check as we go through this process. But so let's get into this a little bit. I want to set context first. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT that simply I need help with strategic planning. We're an Episcopal church in 72802, which just gets kind of some basic context. And you can see it's going to start asking questions, but I've got a specific goal in mind right now. I'm going to use just a basic strategic planning outline. So I'm going to feed it. I've already copied it in. So here are some of the things that we've done. We wanted to start with a retreat. So I said, help me plan strategic. Oops. Ah, sorry. I always hit that button. 2 days using this outline, which is just really basic strategic planning in the church. Which is saying that we're mixing in the ideas of the SWOT analysis with the concept of discernment as well. Okay, so I didn't give it a lot of guidance. So it's started out with this basic taking the outline and simply laying it out with some of the questions and starting to plan a retreat schedule. Now, I can give it more details, but I can say at this point has already potentially saved me an hour of just sitting down and thinking about time blocks, right? And thinking about how to break up what is going to happen when. But one of the things that I want to do is tell it to include periodic reflections on scripture. And so now it can go through here and update the schedule. Yeah, I don't know, Lorenzo. I don't know what that one is yet. And it's going to go back in there and start to add those elements to the schedule. Now, I'm not going to keep doing this, but I bring this up as a starting place to say, all I did was give it the most basic outline of strategic planning. And it's already helping me get into how we're going to format the retreat. And then I can just look through this and say, I need you to spend more time here and less time there in order to get to the place where we have a structured retreat ready to go, which is what I actually did with my vestry. And so we sat down and then we're able to do this to work through it. And then to sort out the schedule for the rest of the schedule. So this is just an example, not sermon writing. It's in a completely different direction where we can start to save time by allowing the tool to do a lot of the workflow for us. The other interesting thing that we ended up doing that was really helpful was at one point in our strategic planning process, we did SWOT analysis, which is for focus groups. So SWOT, the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. But we went out and we had about 10 different focus groups by age, by attribute, people of color, just allowing different small groups. And all of those reports came in, and honestly, they all looked a little different. So instead of, my consultant actually started to do the analysis, and she said, hey, I have to go to the hospital with a friend. So I'm going to start doing this analysis. And instead of having her start typing all of this out, I just pulled all of those random different reports and uploaded them into ChatGPT and said, can you produce a report for me from the SWOT analysis? And so then it immediately came through and summarized it. Again, was it hallucinating? My consultant looked at it and she said, it's identical to what I was already putting together. But where it again gets interesting is I saw a lot of y'all saying, well, what about different ideas? What do I do with it once I have that? And I'm gonna have to actually switch to my window to pull that up instead of the context one. So let's see if I can find my crazy ChatGPT window up in here. It's hiding from me. I can't find it. There it is. No, wrong one. I've got too many. Peter, I'm gonna load this one back up. Did you want to do a little bit with the brainstorming side or is yours active? You're muted.
Thank you. One thing that I wanted to respond to and talk more about is those primary questions we saw in the poll about hallucinations and plagiarism. As you saw with the hallucinations one, with some of these, now hallucinations were a big thing when ChatGPT first came out. They are still a thing. They do still make occasional mistakes. It's pretty low. Talking in the couple percentage points, and it is getting a lot better, especially when ChatGPT and these other tools are able to search the web. So when you have the deep research or you just enable search, it is able to use the web to ground its findings in actual factual data that it reads on the internet from that were created by human creators. Now, if you're looking for factual data, the tool I would actually recommend even more than ChatGPT is called Perplexity. So that's something you should all take away from this. Perplexity, I'll just put it in the chat, is a great tool for sorry, my keyboard is acting weird right now. Perplexity, like you're perplexed. That's the word. It's a great tool for any factual data, answer questions that look for factual answers. ChatGPT and these other tools are actually geared towards creativity, and there is an inherent trade-off between creativity and factual based responses. And so thank you, Lorenza, for putting Perplexity in the chat. And so if you're looking for knowledge, like factual historical data, that is the best tool for it. And then as Mercedes is showing you, ChatGPT is great for brainstorming things because it's an inherently creative act. And so it's actually a feature, not a bug, that these tools hallucinate, and you need to sort of understand that when you're working with them. There is a trade-off there. As for plagiarism, there are a lot of ways of addressing that. There's on the training side, yes, all of these AI LLMs have been trained on enormous swaths of human data, with the creators of this data usually not compensated for that, and that is an issue that I don't really have a clear answer for, other than it's a legal gray area that still has yet to be figured out in the courts. For our own use to be able to engage with these responsibly, I would say, like, definitely, don't use these tools to try to do something where you could, buy the book or whatever and get around copyright with it. There are, buy the book and then maybe help work with the tool to create brainstorm a study plan to explore the book. But yeah, so there are ways of using it that are not making it worse, and using them productively to still help your own ministry to your community.
But to be fair, plagiarism is a concern, and it is something that we're responsible for. If we use the tool and it plagiarizes, even if we don't know, so be aware of it. So there needs to be some way of checking that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for that. Coming back to this, and the reason why I wanted to come to this one, because I saw a lot of questions about help me come up with ideas. So at the top of this, you can see where I uploaded all of my disparate SWOT analyses. Every one of them looks a little bit different. I used a very simple request, compile the SWOT reports, saying that I wanted it to address systemic needs that could be addressed, easy wins, potential one-year goals, and potential three-year goals, as well as providing the detailed report. So I'm not going to open the whole report other than to tell you that it produced the report. And in the analysis, this is where my consultant double checked and said, yes, this looks accurate. This is what I would have reported as well. But what I did next was really started to see what I could do with this after I get past all of the details. Where the SWOT report said that we needed to address different ideas, I wanted it to consider those. So I said, hey, I want 5 new initiatives for small progressive churches in rural areas to explore evangelism. And then gave it a few details, breakdown of cost, manpower, timing, and other resource factors. And you'll see at that point, it did exactly that. It suggested different booths, storytelling campaigns, and each one of them, it estimates the cost and what it would take to do it. Well, after I did the first one, I was like, well, that's a lot of fun. So I basically said, keep doing that, produce a similar report for improved communications. And again, many of the things we're already doing. So I could have then said, show me more, but it continued to produce ideas about what we could do. So I've got the communications as we go further down. How about some intergenerational activities? And so it comes up with some ideas to explore that. And I can keep going. There's like 10 of these that we started pulling together to explore. Liturgical diversity, and I don't know what else is in there. As I got further down, I also then started asking it questions about change management and and ideas about how then to implement and consider some of these changes within the organization as we work further in our plan. But this is the kind of brainstorming that Peter is talking about, that it does extraordinarily well. It then also can get into larger plans. I moved into, just way down here, a fundraising mode. And within that, I specifically said I wanted you to consider fundraising initiatives that had to really turn around a decent dollar. And so some of them are way off the mark for me, but I could have then moved to tailor them. But I asked it, because we have a commercial kitchen that is inspected, I asked it to specifically focus on the kitchen. And so at this point, it starts giving us ideas specific to our kitchen, what we could do. And then finally, what I wanted to show is I took this take and bake meal sales idea, and I asked it to expand, take option 2, the take and bake, and I wanted a full detailed project plan for it. So this was my simple question. And then as we move down, you'll see that it breaks it out into a complete initial plan. Now, is the plan perfect? No. Is it saving me a lot of time that now I can get a group of volunteers together and we can go through it and mark it up and very quickly come together with another plan or a final plan? Yes. So this is where I love to work with it on this kind of brainstorming in order to help us skip a lot of the steps of I have to have just the right volunteer who's thought through it, or we've never done it before. What are some of the factors that we need to consider? And it's very good about considering all of these kinds of ideas. All right. Are we ready for deep search yet?
It is still working. It's actually taking a bit longer on this one. But
Uh-huh.
one thing I'll say is that basically when using these tools, you kind of get what you give, in my experience. The more context you give it, the more detailed and tailored of a response it can give you. And I find for most people who are just, beginning to engage with these tools, they ask it to do something and feel like the response doesn't really fit their context. And I think there was some responses about that to the poll earlier, where it doesn't feel like it fits their context, or it doesn't feel like it's for them. And I would encourage you to try to give it more context, tell it more about what you're looking for. And as you can see, Mercedes was very clear and went back and forth, and kept iterating in the conversation with ChatGPT. And over time, it did more and more of what she was more detailed and tailored responses to her specific way, the thing that she was working on. And I think also, as we are in this transition where AI tools are really just in their earliest beginning, it feels a lot like the earlier days of the internet, where people haven't fully made the transition, and are just figuring out how to make this work. And I think really, this is not one thing that I would say about this is that it's not just a productivity tool to get you to accomplish a whole lot more. It actually is a completely uh, it's like a paradigm shift of how you accomplish the work that you're doing in service of the gospel, because now suddenly you have this creative partner that is perhaps made of silicon, and therefore it's very important that we humans are still holding the reins and keeping in charge, and using our discernment to as to how we engage with this tool. But it's actually really powerful and shifts entirely the how we do the work that we're doing. Because rather than Mercedes having perhaps a whole bunch of meetings and brainstorming with different people, she's able to accomplish this and have something sort of ready to share that still can use human input from other people. But it's just a completely different way of accomplishing our work nowadays. And we're just going to see that develop more and more as time goes on, and these things become more powerful. Mercedes, do you want to tell us what you're sharing right now?
Yeah, I was just, again, playing with another example. I started with an outline for a VBS schedule. We're a small church, and we tend to do our own schedules. So this is a real simple request. Now, I'm in my personal ChatGPT, so it knows a lot about our church context already. So I didn't have to include the context. But as an example, giving it a scripture passage and a rough outline of what our VBS schedule might look like, and having it brainstorm the first start of this. And you can see where it's giving themes, it's breaking down a schedule for us, and then suggesting how we might incorporate different scriptures, different songs, different activities into that. Again, not the final thing, but it's a starting place. And the other one is when we do policies. And I have to admit, and I don't think I'm alone, most of us, when we go out and start to like write a policy for the church, we go and we find examples, or we ask for examples of other policies. And so you start with that, and then you go in and start to customize that policy for what your church needs. So I can start a new chat here, but one we did recently after the last winter storm is I can draft a weather policy for church closure, factoring in Sundays versus work days, and considering our tenants, because we have a whole lot of people that meet here. And it's kind of basically doing that first step of saying, hey, can everybody share your draft weather closure policies with me? And then having to parse through them all and consider what it might look like. It does that first step for us. And then it might, then it'll pull together, brainstorm a draft. And again, I can start to look at this, take this to my committee or my vestry and say, let's see what is relevant to us and what's not relevant to us. And to determine what we want to actually make the policy, so that we're not always making these decisions on the fly. So I saw several people also mention, for example, job descriptions. That's another example where, given the initial considerations, that you can start with maybe what you want it to look like, what the parts you want, and what the considerations are, and then ask it to brainstorm the job description to give you an idea of where to start with it.
Right.
Images. Is Deep Search still going?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with mine. So this is the first time I've seen it sort of just like stop responding.
Okay.
Here, I will share a link in a chat to a Google Doc, and I'm going to put the results of that deep research report into the Google Doc when it is done. So y'all can click on this Google Doc now, save the link, go back to it later, and you'll see what it has done. As for other things, one thing we haven't talked about yet is the environmental cost. And I know that's important for a lot of people, and for me, making sure that we're not polluting more and recklessly and so forth. And there are a lot of, I would say, common understandings about, just how much AI uses energy or water, and most of them are true but somewhat misleading. And so it's helpful to dig into that a little bit more. I will post a link to an article that really summarizes a lot of these points. And I'm also going to show you something else that ChatGPT can do in the process. So here is this article that I just shared in the chat. Using ChatGPT is not bad for the environment. It gives you a lot of graphs, a lot of data. Here are sort of the 4 things that are sort of sound bites that people have heard a lot. Some of you might have heard these as well. I'm going to show you what one thing ChatGPT can do. I'm just going to Control Copy and then go over here in a new window. I have a short key command that, ;S just tells it to summarize and synthesize everything that follows. Putting the article right there. And now it's going to give us a summary of this blog post. Basically, there's the thought about it, pouring out a water bottle every time you send a query is not true. It was something like a liter per 50 queries with ChatGPT 4.0. And then there are other ones like each query uses 10 times as much as a Google search. Well, it's like, when was the last time you worried about the environmental impact of your Google searches? Probably not all that often, because it's such small amounts that we're talking about that 10x a small amount is still a small amount. And so this is giving, more. It's also talking about how much, ChatGPT uses as much energy as 20,000 households, but Zoom, which we're on right now, uses as much as 150,000 households. Spotify, 200,000, Netflix, 800,000, YouTube, 1 million. So it's a little bit misleading to say, oh, ChatGPT uses so much when there are these other platforms that we use all the time that use so much more. So y'all can dig into that further if you click on that link that I shared in the chat that takes you to this blog post that really lays it out for you. So yes, generative AI does use a lot of energy, but also my own individual use, I did some calculations with this. I'm using at the rate of my current use of ChatGPT, as well as my current use of how much I'm reducing my gallons of gas by commuting to work, either bike and ferry. Public transit in the San Francisco Bay Area is often ferry, or working from home. As much energy as I save in 1 week of driving to work less, I could save that much energy by using ChatGPT less or not at all for 45 years. Just to put it in perspective, 1 week versus 45 years by my calculation. And so, yeah, it's a bit misleading to say that my individual use is going to have a huge impact on the environment. But please dig into that article more.
Which doesn't make it, again, we're talking context here. So are there concerns about the IT use and impact on the environment? Yes. But in a little bit of a way, AI has been scapegoated lately. And so the same concerns, what we need to be talking about are how these data centers are going to become more environmentally friendly, not just AI. And I'm thinking right now, I'm looking through the questions, so I want to make sure we leave enough time to, if there are specific questions. I was going through here. I noticed one of the first questions up here was about shield and branding. And again, I'd need more information about that. But if you were to ask it specifically about, are we talking specifically about the Episcopal Church's shield and branding, then one of the options there would to try to ask Kathy, which is the Tritank. Lorenzo funded a specific Chat GPT a bot that is based on Episcopal information, and so it will have more specific information about that than perhaps ChatGPT in general, which is going to have broader knowledge. So, so that would be something to check there. But if you wanted to actually brainstorm building a shield or doing your branding, then yes, then it can think like it's a communications consultant and help think through that process. Similar with the new approaches to Christian formation, I think with a lot more detail, there would be some great options there for a deep research article on that one. Paige is mentioning about doing job descriptions. And I'm going to pause here. Later on, Paige also said we should answer the question of the difference between the paid version of ChatGPT and the free version. Peter, you want to tackle that one?
Sure. So I haven't used the free version in a while, but my latest understanding is that there are different tiers of this, and each company has their own options that they offer. And so forgive me if this is not 100% accurate, but basically what you get is access to more powerful, better products when you pay. It's sort of as simple as that. And there's a limit to how many queries you can submit every hour or a week or whatever it is. Different tools have different time frames. So for example, with deep research on the $20 a month plan, I get 10 queries a month. So with ChatGPT 4.0, I've never hit the limit in all my use of that. ChatGPT 4.5 just came out a few weeks ago, and it's a really powerful model that does use more than 4.0 for writing. And at the plus level, you can get 50 queries a week. With the paid level, I don't think you have access to that at all. And so, the 4.5 model just feels much more human in a way. We talk about how there are certain things that are written that sound like AI. Well, 4.5 is getting actually much better at sounding natural, which is either exciting or scary, depending on how you take that. And in this transforming world that we're in, I think it's important to stay up with the latest tools so that we can engage better and more effectively in the world around us.
Right.
And yeah, so
Yeah, the other part about the paid models include the ability to build custom mini bots inside ChatGPT. So,
yeah,
for example, you can do just about anything with these. I've got one in here that is my personalized meal planner because I have a very specific diet due to some diagnoses. So it knows all of my limitations and helps and is able to create a weekly meal plan based on what I will eat and what I can't eat. And then it'll create a grocery list that is broken out by my shelf staples and organized by the grocery store. And then it gives me a food prep checklist every time I ask for it so that I know what I can food prep on Sunday. But the big
I can
one
give
that,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry. Oh, I was just going to jump in and say I can give sort of a screen share example of how the extra knowledge and
sure.
context works. This is sort of a fun one. I've just been starting to work on our VBS. It's funny that
Mhm.
you brought up that example. And I thought it would be fun to do an English Reformation based game where there's a little bit of competition between the different theological factions that they all play out before the Elizabethan settlement comes in, and most of the groups are sort of brought along into this new synthesis. And I'll share. So, oops, I turned off my video. Here is my so in if you're a subscriber, you can have projects. Theses and Thrones is the name of this game I'm working on, and here you can add these files. So there's some research about the different factions and their powers, and then also a PDF about that I've created about the rules of the game and how it's working. And now I just want to say,
You're not quite shared yet.
right? What's that?
It's not shared.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you seeing it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Here you go. So some information about faction locations and some rules in this PDF. So it has some knowledge and instructions, and I tell it to write in Elizabethan English. So now write an invitation to clergy colleagues to invite their congregations to join our at this camp, right? As my name for this game is Potter Peter. Um, and we'll see what it does. So now it has all this custom instructions already, and it has the ability to tailor this invitation to do it in my voice for this game. And so it says, I write to thee in the spirit of joyful conspiracy to bid thee and thy flock consider a most wondrous adventure. Fog Camp, that's the name of our camp at St. Gregory's, Friends of God. We do Fog Camp every year, but the theme is Theses and Thrones this year. So here we go, in the year of our Lord 2025. Anyways, so that just gives you an example of how with this extra knowledge and context, I can give it a short command and it'll do everything I need it to do because it already has the context to detail out the different factions, the Henricians, evangelicals, Puritans, and traditionalists, and so forth. So that's how
Yeah.
something you get with the subscription level that you can do.
There's a couple of things in here that I do want to come back around to. One of these questions is about what happens when you type in pastoral therapy, psychotherapy, and you use info as a volunteer within your church, right? So there are fears and there are concerns about what it can do. And it's also important to understand that, the boundary of that is as much out in the world as in the church. So we would not necessarily authorize a volunteer to provide that upfront anyway. But the question is then what are we trying to reel back in that? The concern is there. We can certainly work with policies to help with something like that. But I can't control a human who decides that they are going to try to give advice in the church without AI, much less the one with AI. So that I would be curious about if you're looking for a policy there. But I do want to come to Elizabeth's question about reducing fear around AI for our parishioners, because I think that is a really it's a real concern for a lot of people, and also about the theological concerns. And the as a member of the General Convention Interim Task Force, those are all concerns that we are currently evaluating and gathering information and perspectives to understand what a lot of the concerns are. I can tell you that for me, as I have used AI in my context, I have been transparent with my congregation and starting with my vestry, and had open conversations about what I use and what I don't use it for, and also asking them. And so we've had several discussions in vestry. We had an open forum a few weeks ago to discuss it. I've invited questions so that we're about to put together a responsible use policy that is relevant to where we feel like we are right now, with the expectation that we will probably have to update it frequently, because it's such a fast evolving technology. And so a little research, we're hoping to dig into a lot of these topics with our podcast, but specifically to the questions that you're asking there. In terms of, for example, compensating people for their labor. On the one side, I am exploring this because I'm in a situation where my church administrator was a volunteer before, and then retired from that role. And so I'm exploring what parts of some of that can be done with AI, while recognizing that the human relationship is actually the most important part about it. So that's one side of the concern. I don't believe it's appropriate to use AI to replace a paid employee, especially in the church, because now we have crossed a line. Relative to the human creatives out in the world, there is a lot of concern about what to do about the materials that have been co-opted by the AI. And I don't have a great answer for that right now. In my practices, I don't go looking for material that I don't already own, if this makes sense. One of the examples I give is I've got 5 books by Anne Lamott, and she tells a lot of little great stories in there, and I can't always remember which book the story is in. So I find it easier to use ChatGPT because Google can't find them, to figure out which book it is so that I can go look it up. Or when I'm working on an inquirer's class, and I have 10 copies of the books that we are going to include as part of the inquirer's class, then I feel like using AI to help me organize and brainstorm the actual outline of the inquirer's class is reasonable. So that's how I personally discern that in my work. And what Peter and I do in our podcast is try to bring it back to the baptismal covenant as we can, since that's our guide for faithful living in the Episcopal Church. So we will typically try to do our discernment in the podcast within that to help us make those decisions. Oh, I'm looking through to see what else other questions have come up there.
I'll also just say that the course that Lorenzo put in the chat is a great one. I did that. I think it's the same one that I did a while back, and it is. Oh, sorry. Name of our podcast is AI Church Toolkit. And so I'll put that in the chat.
I
Or
got it.
Mercedes got it. Okay, cool. So the course from the Neuron is great. And something else to know about learning to use these tools, it's a completely different way of working. And there's something that this business school professor Ethan Mollick calls the jagged edge of their knowledge frontier. That it's very strange to a lot of people that ChatGPT will, can give you a great summary of this complex topic if you just ask it, but then it doesn't know what day it is. And so, it's the jagged edge refers to the fact that as it grows in capability, its capabilities are not increasing at the same rate that a human's capabilities increase as we develop and grow smarter or whatever. And so it's a very strange feeling to engage with this foreign tool that has an intelligence, but the intelligence is nothing like ours. And so it really takes a while. Ethan Mollick says about 10 hours of playing around with it and really truly playing with it just to see, how fun and weird and exciting it is, to you really get a sense of how it works, what things it's good at. And I'm always constantly reading about different updates. And that's, how I stay on top of these things to try to understand, okay, what are the things it's good at? What is it not good at? And yeah, so, and obviously then always using it to deepen human relationships rather than replace them, and in using it in service of the gospel. Like that's why we are, in charge, using these things as tools rather than relating to it as another person who can be autonomous, because that I don't believe in that type of engagement with these tools. And honestly, I don't think it is factually true that they're able to do that. There are people who have like relationships with these bots, and that's I think bad on many levels. I'll just leave it at that. We are running out of time. Would you want to suggest you'll answer additional questions offline? Yes, happy to. Feel free to reach out to both or either of us. Mercedes, should we put our emails in the chat? I'll put mine in there if I get my keyboard working. And any last questions, we'll engage until we're done. We really are just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to learn about all of this.
And what we hope and kind of our goal here, you see, was not so much to walk through any one perfect example of something, but to popcorn ideas. And I'm really interested and love a lot of the ideas that have already come up in here, because I think there is some opportunity to really consider some fun ideas about what it can do to simplify things.
That's great. Mercedes and Peter, thank you so much for all that you did today and sharing this introduction. We are looking at hosting a session specifically on Ask Kathy with our friend Lorenzo in the summertime. So please keep that in mind. And this again will be the first of several conversations about this. And please do be in touch with Mercedes and Peter offline with other questions. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll look forward to keeping you guys looped in. All right.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks so much.